look.
The long, hot summer of 1940 was a scorcher.
Choose your Gillette Super Speed Razor. $1.29 with Gillette Blue Blade dispenser and handy travel case.
It's the 1940s, just roughly 2 decades away from Nigeria's independence. Globally, we're seeing the aftermath of the world wars. In fact, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising had just ensued in 1943. We saw the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. And in fact, Nigeria engaged in the World War. About 45,000 Nigerian soldiers served in the British Army in Africa and Southeast Asia.
The people of Africa are doing excellent work to help the Allied cause, both by the production of raw materials and by finding men for the armed forces.
Industry is thriving, as slave trade has been a very lucrative business.
This is the island of Lagos, gateway to Nigeria.
The Brits still have the stronghold on a huge portion of Nigerian society. Every young Nigerian is wide-eyed and hopeful of a future of greener pasture. But Nigerian society doesn't seem as plagued of its current misfortunes or shortcomings. Or does it? We've been led to believe the myth that is usually perpetuated by the older folks or the older generation that Nigeria was perhaps better under colonial rule. When in fact there was much poverty, starvation, illiteracy, disunity, and discord in the land. British feudal rulers via indirect rule subjugated the masses in the north, especially. Colonial rule exacerbated pre-existing tensions of the land that has split Nigeria till this current day.
But the deeper roots of this north-south divide can be traced back to the late 1800s, during what was called by the imperial European powers the scramble for Africa. Colonization was motivated by the European hunger for African resources. The subsequent exploitation of the African people and the uprooting of their spiritual values by Christian missionaries would leave a permanent European stamp on the continent. Britain cut the largest piece of African cake from Cairo to Cape Town, in addition to Nigeria and a few West African regions. It was also the British Empire that in 1894 imposed an arbitrary boundary around the many diverse ethnic groups and kingdoms that would make up Uganda. The southern Bantu-speaking people were given economic, political, and educational advantage. The northern ethnic groups, two in particular, the Acholi and the Langi, were the main recruits for military and police positions. By exploiting linguistic, ethnic, and cultural differences between the peoples of the North and South, Britain's divide and rule policies created a tension between them that helped maintain British rule. The French took an east-west slice of the continent as well as Madagascar. The Belgians took Rwanda, Burundi, and the Congo in what Joseph Conrad called the vilest scramble for loot that ever disfigured the history of human conscience. Slave labor took over 5 million lives. In Rwanda, Belgium entrenched the idea of the Hutu as a workforce and the Tutsi as extenders of Belgian rule. The politicization of these two cultures would profoundly contribute to the genocide of 1994. In Sudan, the British ruled the Arabs in the north and the blacks in the south as separate colonies, only to combine the areas before independence in 1956. The result has been relentless civil war, the Darfur massacres being the latest tragedy. The Portuguese decimated Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau well into the 1970s. The Italians took Libya, Eritrea, and Somalia. The Germans added Cameroon and Tanzania and committed the first genocide of the 20th century against the Herero people.
No colonial power is going to succeed unless it's going to play on existing divisions and sharpen them, increase them, exacerbate them. So one of the first questions after the end of colonialism is who belongs and who doesn't? Who was part of the colonial struggle and who betrayed? And this is time to settle scores.